How is it that two people can earn almost exactly the same salary, right down to the dollar, but cut to 10 years later, and only one of them is a millionaire while the other is still scraping by paycheck to paycheck? I mean, did one of them just get incredibly lucky? Were they secretly born into wealth? No way. What's really happening is that there's an invisible system working quietly in the background for millionaires, and almost nobody else even notices it's there. I absolutely love this quote because it hits the nail right on the head. Income pays today's bills. Wealth pays tomorrow's lifestyle. It highlights a fundamental truth that's so easy to miss. Earning money and building wealth are two completely different games. We spend so much of our lives hyper-focused on that first game, just making the income. But millionaires, they quietly master the second one.
All right, moving into Section 1, the tale of two neighbors and the invisible wealth gap.
Picture this. Two neighbors, making the exact same amount of money, both get a nice bonus at work. Now the first neighbor is a consumer. She immediately takes that cash and buys some dopamine-fueled upgrades. You know, a nicer car, a slightly bigger house, maybe some really expensive vacations. But the second neighbor, before he upgrades his lifestyle even a tiny bit, he quietly buys productive assets. We're talking business equity, a rental property, just steadily building up a diversified portfolio.
And the way this plays out over time is just wild. After 1 year, the difference between their net worth is completely invisible. 3 years in, it's still really hard to notice. By year 5, okay, the gap is just barely starting to show. But by year 10, boom, there is a massive, life-altering wealth divergence. It's not some overnight success story. It's literally thousands of tiny, seemingly boring financial decisions compounding slowly over a decade.
The really crucial thing to understand here is that this whole thing is a psychological battle. Our brains are hardwired to crave that immediate dopamine hit, like the thrill of driving off the lot in a brand new car, way more than we value our future freedom. Because, let's be real, future freedom today just looks like a pile of boring asset paperwork. Millionaires don't have some sort of supernatural willpower. They just purposefully build systems to completely bypass that psychological trap.
Which brings us to Section 2, Consumers versus Owners and the all-important mindset shift.
It basically boils down to the questions you ask yourself every day. Consumers log into their bank accounts, see a balance, and ask, "What can I buy?" Owners, on the flip side, look at their accounts and ask, "What can I own?" That single tiny shift in phrasing is staggering. It transforms you from someone who just spends money into someone who strategically deploys it. And you can really see the cascading effects of this mindset shift. Consumers are out there celebrating a bigger paycheck, meaning they just keep working harder for their income. But owners, they celebrate bigger portfolios. They focus all their energy on building income-producing systems. And the beauty of that is, eventually, those automated systems work way harder for them than they ever could working a traditional 9 to 5.
Let's jump to Section 3, treating your money as employees and the compounding snowball.
Okay, quick thought experiment for you. If you were the boss and you hired 100 employees for your company, would you let 95 of them just sit around the break room doing absolutely nothing all day? Well, of course not. That's crazy. Yet millions of people unknowingly do exactly this with their finances. They leave their idle cash sitting in regular checking accounts, doing nothing, slowly bleeding purchasing power to inflation. The millionaire mindset totally flips this. To them, every single dollar is an employee. And that employee's only mission in life is to go out and produce another dollar. Every buck you earn has to be put to work, whether you're buying shares, investing in rentals, or putting it into private funds. The mission is always to generate future income. Now, we hear about compounding all the time, but it's important to remember it's absolutely not a straight line. It behaves exactly like a snowball rolling down a mountain. In the early years, the growth is incredibly tiny, almost invisible, which can be frustrating. In the middle years, you start seeing some moderate momentum. But hit those later years, that's when you see massive, exponential growth. And this is exactly why wealthy people are so patient. They start early and just let time do the heavy lifting for them. So, let's ground this in a real-world scenario. Say you get a $10,000 bonus. The consumer instantly thinks, "Awesome, what can I buy?" They might book an amazing luxury vacation, and hey, that creates great memories. But poof, the money is gone. The owner, however, asks, "What can this buy that will pay me for years?" They prioritize lasting cash flow over a quick, temporary lifestyle upgrade. And man, this mindset completely changes the game when the market gets rocky. During an economic crisis, consumers tend to panic, They fixate on the current price and ask, oh no, how much does this cost today? Owners, they stay totally unemotional. They look at the exact same situation and ask, what is this going to be worth over the next 10 years? While everyone else is panicking, owners just see a giant discount sale and focus relentlessly on tomorrow's value.
All right, Section 4, the habits of millionaires, basically a 7-step framework.
So what is this framework they all seem to follow? It's pretty straightforward. Step 1, pay yourself first. 2, buy assets before upgrading your life. 3, invest consistently. 4, think in decades, not days. 5, fiercely protect your capital. 6, always continue learning. And 7, create value. Like I said, it's not magic. It's just a series of habits intentionally designed to stop our messy human emotions from sabotaging our financial futures.
If we zero in on the first 2 habits, it is all about automation. You have to automate your investments first before you pay anyone else. And when you get a raise, you use that extra money to increase your ownership, not your living expenses. Because if you wait around to just invest whatever happens to be left over at the end of the month, guess what? There's never anything left. Which honestly is exactly why so many self-made millionaires look like completely ordinary people. Then there's habits 4 and 5, zooming out to think in decades and, frankly, obsessing over avoiding catastrophic losses. Remember, wealth is built through thousands of incredibly ordinary, boring decisions over a really long time. Survival is the very first rule of wealth. Diversification is key here because you literally cannot compound your money if you lose it all on one bad risky bet. And I really want to hammer home habit 7, create value before expecting wealth. This is huge. Money is rarely the starting point for self-made wealth. Value is. Millionaires just become exceptionally good at solving problems for other people. When you do that, the money simply follows the value you've created in the marketplace.
Which brings us to our final section. Section 5, buying freedom, the ultimate currency. Fast forward 20 years, and the contrast between these 2 paths is just mind-blowing. The person on the consumer path is still chasing a higher paycheck, which means they are still trapped, forced to sell their time for money. But the owner, the one who spent 2 decades quietly building productive assets, they now completely own their time. It's proof that your direction matters far, far more than your speed.
Because at the end of the day, true wealth isn't measured by a massive income level or flexing luxury items. True wealth buys freedom. The freedom to be with your family whenever you want, the freedom to hop on a plane and travel, the absolute unshakable freedom to say no to things you just don't want to do, and the freedom to build something deeply meaningful to you. Having that number of choices, that is the real prize.
So I want to leave you with this one slightly uncomfortable question. And you should seriously ask yourself this every single time you get paid. Will this decision make my future richer, or will it only make today more comfortable? Let that sink in for a second, because ultimately, money buys comfort, but ownership buys freedom.